Hi all, welcome to another video. So in today's video, let's talk about currency and currency depreciation, right? So the talk of the town is that Indian rupee has touched 90 per dollar, right, recently. And it is sustaining above 90 rupees and people started asking how long it will take for rupee to reach 100, right? So many discussions are going on in Twitter, X forum, and all the places where investments and finance related topics are discussed, right? So let's dive deep into that. So when I talk about Indian rupee, right, if you take historically from 2000, from year 2000 till 2025, if you take Indian rupee has depreciated around close to 3% against US dollar, right? So the another important point that we should consider is that right now this can change going forward, but for the past many years US dollar is considered as the world currency, in the sense that if countries are doing transaction between each other, they tends to do it in US dollar, right? So when you are doing some trade, uh, the countries will buy US dollar, then they will transact the USD for the commodity that they are trading with the other countries, right? So always what happens is all the countries in the world will have a lot of US current dollar as their reserve. Just like countries accumulate gold, countries also accumulate US dollar for trade purpose. Now coming back to our discussion, as you know, rupee reached 90. Let's talk in general about any currency, right? So I am keeping this video into three sections. So the first point that I want to discuss, as usual, I have written few points. So the first point I want to discuss is how a currency depreciate, right? So I will talk about it with an example of same Indian rupee against US dollar, right? So the first point is why the currency is depreciating or why Indian rupee is depreciating is because of the higher demand for US dollar. So why is that the case, right? So as you know, India import more goods from other countries compared to the export. So what does that mean? So say for example, if India is importing 100 rupees of item from some other country, on the other hand we are only exporting goods worth of only 90 rupees. This is just an example. So what does that mean? We have a trade deficit of 10 rupees, right? So we always have a trade deficit. So because we always import more things, we have to buy more dollar, right? All the, like I said, all the trade transaction happens in US dollar. So because of that, the demand for dollar increases because we are buying more US dollar, right? Because we are a nation, we import more compared to export. So that's the number one reason that demand for dollar is more high, right? And the second most important reason, as stock market participants, right? This is one of the primary reason. Another most important reason why the Indian rupee is depreciating is the FII selling in the Indian markets. So what happens is the foreigners usually invest in Indian market, right? Because we used to generate a lot of returns for them. But historically, if you take like especially right now, right, last 2 3 years, the FIIs are selling drastically. So there are varieties of reason for that. I am not digging deep into that because the dollar adjusted return from India may be less for them, and also they find other countries as more attractive compared to India. There are multiple reasons. for them to withdraw money from the Indian stock market and investing in somewhere. So why the rupee depreciates when when the FIAs sell, right? So when FIAs sell, they will convert, they will sell in Indian rupees, they will convert the money that they got from rupee to dollar, right? Because they want the money in dollar. So once you sell the Indian stocks, they will have Indian rupee, they will convert that into dollar. So naturally the demand for dollar increases because they are selling the Indian rupee, right? Anything, if they sell more, the value depreciates. So if the FIAs are doing that regularly, the dollar demand will naturally increase compared to the Indian rupee. So Indian rupee will depreciate. Hope you are understanding the point, right? And the third point that factors the currency depreciation is the global demand for dollar. When does that come? The global demand. That comes when the US Federal Reserve increase the interest rates so that they will have better returns from the US market or US Treasury, right? So what happens at that scenario? What happens is that the people across the world. So one point is that historically US market is considered as the temple, right? In terms of stock market, economy, whatever you take, people believe that long term, if you invest in, I mean, US market is the most trusted market in the world. So when the US Federal Reserve increase the rates, and if they are getting better inflation adjusted returns from the US market, since it is a trusted market, across the countries, people will put their money into US Treasury or US bond, right? So to invest in US market, they need dollar. So all the countries will purchase dollar. So this is like a global phenomena. Globally, the value of US dollar increases because of this phenomena. So these are like the surface level explanation, and these are the main. There are multiple points, but these are the three main points because of which the currency of any nation depreciates against US dollar. Here we are talking about the Indian rupee, right? Now the another point, so first point, why the currency depreciates, that we discussed. Now the second point is, so not necessarily the currency depreciation is bad always, right? There are some advantages. So that's what I will discuss in the second point. What are the advantages of currency depreciation, right? So if you see, if the dollar is more valued, right, our exports will become more profitable. So we are exporting things, say for example, right now we are exporting for $1 of item. Say the $1 maybe last year is 80 rupees, right? And this year if you are exporting the same item, the $1 is 90 rupees. For the same item, compared to last year, they are getting 10 rupee profit, right? Same item. Last year, because the $1 was 80 rupees per dollar, they got only 80 rupees. This year, because the currency depreciated and dollar appreciated, the same item they are exporting for 90 rupees. So the companies that are more export driven, they will be beneficial from the currency depreciation, INR depreciation. That is why we say that IT companies, pharma companies, textile companies, where most of their business happens through export, will benefit immensely from currency depreciation, rupee depreciation. So that is the first advantage of currency depreciation, right? And the second point is, like I said, when the currency depreciates, imports will be difficult, right? I mean, imports will be expensive. So naturally, the government will encourage more domestic manufacturing, right? Domestic production, so that we can reduce the import because it's expensive. it's much more cheaper to produce inside the nation rather than importing from other countries, right? Because of the currency depreciation. So our domestic production will improve, that will increase job opportunities for our people. So those are all good things, right? And the third point is regarding tourism. Tourism will become cheaper, right? Like India will become globally competitive in terms of tourism attractiveness, because our currency is cheap. The people from US or anywhere, they find their currency is strong against Indian rupee. And last point is our NRI remittance. So the people who are working abroad, right? For them, when they send back $1 against 80 rupee and $1 against 90 rupee. So last year they have sent $1, and this year if they are sending $1, the difference will be 10 rupee, right? People who are sitting in India will be benefited out of the dollar appreciation, because the same dollar that the NRI people sending to their family, we can purchase more things, right, here in India because of the currency depreciation. So when they send back, say for example, $100 at 80 rupees, here we are receiving 8,000 rupees. But if they are sending the same $100 against 90 rupees, here we have 9,000 rupees, right? So yeah, and these are just examples I am quoting, right? So these are the advantages of, currency depreciation. Now the third point, right? The most important point, that is, what are the disadvantages, right? And the disadvantages again is like I mentioned in the first case, import goods will become expensive, right? So we import a lot of crude oil, gold, and many other important electronic items, important things to India from other nations. Let us take just crude as an example, right? We are a major importer of crude oil. So if the currency depreciates, the crude oil value, the imported value will increase, right? What does that mean? If crude oil prices increases, naturally it will increase inflation, because everything is revolving around the crude oil price, right? I mean, we need vehicles to transfer vegetables, all the grocery items, everything across India. So what happens usually is, when the crude oil prices increases, naturally inflation will also increase. Increase in inflation is definitely not a good thing for Indian economy, right? So that is the biggest problem, number one. Number two is higher cost of foreign debt. So we, as you know, right, we borrow money from international banks. When we have to repay the money, we have to repay in USD only, right? Like I said, USD is considered as the global currency. When the USD value appreciates, the money that we have to send, or the money that we have to repay in loan or in interest, will be more, right? So last year we have to pay $1. The dollar rupee rupee dollar value was 80 rupees. This year, since it became 90, we have to pay 90 rupees, pay back 90 rupees compared to last year's 80 rupee, right? Everything changes because of the currency depreciation. And the last point is, as a sum total of all this will impact the economy of India, right? Inflation rises means people will spend less, because the purchasing power or the value for groceries will increase. People will spend very less. All the expenses will reduce. So naturally, the economy will slow down, right? Which is not at all a good thing. So these are the 3 points why the currency depreciates, what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages. Now comes the long-term impact, right? How overall, if you speak, how it will impact the economy over a long period of time. So from what I understood doing all the research and before preparing this video, it's about the government to handle this currency depreciation, right? So like I said, because the export will boost because of the currency depreciation, uh, government will tend to uh, government will encourage companies to export more, plus government will encourage companies to produce inside our nation. So that's the reason the policies like Make in India and Made in India, all these uh, things are extremely important, because ultimately we have to reduce the trade deficit. That means we have to reduce the gap between goods imported and goods exported. Long term, what we have to make sure is that we are a self-sustained nation, right? We should have trade surplus. We should have everything that is available for us within India. If we can reach that stage, well and good. But at least if we can reach a point where the trade deficit is so minimum that the dependency on other countries are extremely less, or even if that is the case, we have enough money, right, to purchase those things. So again, like I said, government policies matters a lot over here. Right now, the what the think tank thinks is that 3% of depreciation in Indian rupee against dollar is natural. It's okay. That is what our Reserve Bank governor also talked recently. So let's have faith in our people who are running the country, RBI, government, finance ministry, everywhere, right? Of course, the one thing that we have to consider, or the one thing that we have to keep in our mind, is that it's always important that we produce things inside our nation. So if you are someone who likes to build it, or if you are someone who likes to start a business, do it. It's not just like that you will be benefited out of that, our nation will be benefited out of that. So we want more and more entrepreneurs, we want more and more builders inside our nation. Only then uh, we will become a great nation, and we will be self-sustainable in future. So as a final point, what I have to say is that currency depreciation is not necessarily a bad thing, but if we don't take care of it seriously, or if we don't uh, take proper action or proper policies, then it will become a disaster for our country, right? So that's about today's video. If you are liking my content, do subscribe and share with people who are interested in these topics. I will come up with another video, and till then, take care. Bye bye.